Chapter 22 Operation Save Jasmine. Jasmine and Lypye's Perspectives.
Jasmine's perspective. When I came to, I was laying on a rectangular concrete slab that was about 3 feet off of the ground. My hands were cuffed behind my back and my ankles were cuffed to the slab. Being 8 months pregnant, I couldn't sit up by doing a sit-up. The sunset in the sky was blinding as well. King was staring down at me, smirking.
Of all the mortals on Karth, you had to be the one pregnant with a demigod.
My eyes widened. How do you... He laughed evilly.
By listening. It wasn't hard to figure out where you moved to. Once you and Lypye weren't home, I had Carl plant a listening device in your apartment. We were hoping to figure out Lypye's weakness, which we did. Hearing you admit that you were pregnant but brewed a new plan.
You won't get my child, I spat. Kim, who was leaning on one of the pillars of City Hall, a little behind King, chuckled. You won't be alive to stop us. King grabbed a needle and injected something into my arm. King nodded.
And with the Syara team distracted by Chase and Carl, you don't have a huge chance of being saved.
He grabbed my chin tightly.
Of course you are Lypye's weakness. This should be fun. Weak little goddess of darkness.
Oh, so you do remember. We heard over at the entrance of the roof. King let go of me and we both looked over to see Lypye and Pantherye standing there. Lypye's perspective.
Well now.
King started.
Are we efficient? Though Pantherye and Lypye didn't expect the two of you to show up together. Figured you, Pantherye, would be hunting for Carl with your team.
He smirked.
I'm glad you are not the one with them.
I noticed her touch her pocket where she keeps the antidote to Carl's poison slowly, then watched as her eyes widened in realization. She pulled out her phone frantically. I have to call Jawaria. Kim ran forward. Oh, no you don't. I shoved Kim out of the way, but not before she kicked the phone out of Pantherye's hand, smashing the screen as it hit the ground. Pantherye looked over at me. Can I borrow your phone? I left it on the discussion table by accident, I admitted. Jawaria and Hain are strong. They'll know what to do. King pulled out an oversized gun and quickly shot it at Pantherye, then me. For the moment, we were both laying down with chains wrapped completely around our arms and torso.
Don't bother trying to break out of those. The more you move, the tighter they'll become.
King laughed evilly. Pantherye began chuckling and I looked at her confused. I'm expecting backup, she whispered. Jasmine's perspective. King grabbed my left wrist tightly, whispering,
Now we wait.
The next few seconds went by quickly. I didn't even see it coming, but next thing I knew, an arrow with red feathers was in King's arm. He let go of me, howling in pain. I looked over to see a girl with short black hair that came down to her chin, standing on top of one of the pillars. She was wearing a baggy green t-shirt that swayed in the wind, green basketball shorts, white socks, green sneakers, and a green mask that went around her eyes. She shot an arrow on a line from her wrist to the pillar, grabbed the wire, then used that to climb down the pillar. As soon as she was on the ground, she retracted the wrist hook. King pulled the arrow out of his arm and threw it at the girl, but the girl rolled forward, dodging it. She quickly scrambled to one knee, aiming the bow and arrow at King.
Who the fuck are you?
King yelled. Agent A, the girl responded. Weapon specialist of the Mortal Syara team. Mortal, huh? Kim piped up. She came charging at Agent A, catching the agent off guard. Lypye's perspective. Agent A quickly grabbed an arrow, but even I could tell that she didn't have enough time to turn the arrow toward Kim. Oh no you don't, I heard from behind me. I saw a flash of blue fly over me. It was Agent B. She ran up and quickly kicked Kim in the stomach, knocking her off her feet. Agent B looked a little different. She had on the same blue clothing, but she also had on flat black boots that went halfway up her thigh, black gloves that went up to her shoulders, and a black wrap that went around her stomach. Agent A, I heard from the roof behind the rooftop door. Take care of King. Agent A smirked and aimed an arrow at King. She took a deep breath and shot a red feathered arrow into King's arm. He yelled in pain and yanked the arrow out. Fuck, I missed, Agent A whispered. King stormed over to her quickly, yanked the bow out of her hand, and threw it over the edge of the roof. He ripped the arrow bag off of her and threw that, with the arrow still in it, over the edge as well. Agent A backed up a little. I attempted to break the chains, but they tightened, causing me to scream. King chuckled.
I remember the time when you wouldn't risk your life for a mortal Lypye.
I didn't know how to care back then, I snapped.
Caring has made you weak.
He commented. No, I breathed. Caring has given me strength because I had something worth fighting for. King walked over to me and kicked me in the face, causing my nose to bleed.
And when that person you care about dies, it'll be a lot easier to break you.
He walked back over to Agent A, who was starting to panic. She was just a kid against an immortal. What do I do? The voice came again from the rooftop doorway. Agent A, risk, distraction. Agent A held out her wrist and shot the retractable arrow into King's shoulder. Huh, what do you know? She proved me wrong and showed me a few genius ways to use the wrist arrow. The door of the roof opened and Agent M walked through. She laid down some mechanical drone and pulled out a controller, beginning to fly it around. This drone had 3 of the crystals that Agent R had showed me on the center of the drone. Agent A, retract. Agent A quickly retracted the wrist arrow and backed up. Agent M flew the drone over to King. She stared down the drone and pushed a button on the controller, dropping a claw. The claw quickly closed around King's shirt, pulling him about 10 feet in the air.
Put me down.
King yelled. Okay. Agent M agreed cheerfully, opening the claw. King fell down those 10 feet and smacked down on the center of the roof. The fall knocked him unconscious. No! I heard Kim scream. I looked over to see Agent B and Kim punch Kim in the face. Both were bruised and bleeding. How was Agent B able to fight Kim? Agent B was clearly sweating and out of breath, but she continued to fight. She's not going to last too much longer. Kim will be a lot harder to catch with that drone. Agent A, Agent M said. I looked at her to see her handing the drone in her hand. I direct your equipment up the stairs. Agent A smirked and went through the rooftop door. When she came back, she had a blowtorch and a protective mask. Wait! I yelled. These chains get tighter the more we struggle. You try and melt these chains, they will squeeze us to death. Agent A threw out the protective mask, sighing. Check King's pockets. Pantherye spoke up finally. He seems to love traps of keys. Oh, no you don't! We heard Kim yell. I looked over to see Kim charging at Agent A. Agent B grabbed Kim's arm and threw her backwards to the ground. Agent B was coughing, out of breath, and shaking. Shit! Agent M, quickly, look! I commanded. Agent M, who had already put her drone down, reached into King's front pants pockets. After a few seconds, she pulled out a shiny gold key. She quickly and carefully felt around the chains I was in until she found the lock. The lock was similar to a baby's car seat buckle, but the lock was connecting the 2 ends of the chain instead of the buckle. Agent M unlocked the chains, then did the same for Pantherye. Pantherye and I quickly scrambled to our feet, brushing ourselves off. Agent A sighed. I never get to use this. Use it to unlock Jasmine, Pantherye suggested. Excuse me? We heard Jasmine yell. Pantherye, Agent A, and I walked over to her. Jasmine stared at me. I do not trust some kid using a blowtorch. Agent A smirked. First of all, I am a teenager. She threw the protective mask down over her face. Using the blowtorch, she managed to break all the chains without hurting Jasmine. She had thrown a cloth under the chains, one I would later discover was invented by Agent R to protect from burns, to protect her from the melted metal. Agent A helped Jasmine stand up, then threw the mask up. Second of all, my dad taught me how to use one of these when I was only 4 years old. Jasmine opened her mouth like she wanted to say something, but she was so taken aback that she choked on her words. Agent A had a questionable childhood, I explained. Agent B, out of nowhere, came flying in between all of us, completely passed out. Agent B! Agent A yelled, jumping down to her knees. She felt Agent B's neck, then sighed in relief. She's alive. I'm surprised she lasted that long, I mumbled. It's her suit, Agent A responded. The inside connected to all of her nerves that the suit touches, making her strong enough to fight an immortal. It's powered by... I quickly kneeled down and covered her mouth. Probably the same thing everything else is powered by. We'll talk about it later. I let go of her mouth, stood up, and faced Kim. We have a bigger problem to deal with. Pantherye picked up Agent B. We need to get her out of here. I nodded. Pantherye, get Jazz and the agents out of here. I got Kim. She looked like she was about to protest, but I stared her down. She sighed and nodded. Good luck. Jasmine's perspective. I tried my best to run with Pantherye and the agents, but my vision was getting blurry. My body felt heavy and I was stumbling. Eventually, I tripped over my own feet and fell forward, unable to get up. I rolled over onto my back, laying down. I blinked, trying to regain some vision. Although dazed, I noticed Pantherye set Agent B down, then run over to me. Jasmine, are you okay? What happened? King injected me with something, I murmured, slurring my words together. How do you feel? She asked. Numb. Tired. I can't really see. I tried. Morphine, she whispered, or something similar. He wanted you to pass out. What's his goal? I'm pregnant, I whispered before everything went black. Lypye's perspective. Kim smirked. You're so worried about some mortal who's already killing herself. I ran at her and punched her in the face. I'll make sure she doesn't do that. She laughed evilly, then kicked me in the face, knocking me to the ground. You're failing at that. I stood up and narrowed my eyes. What do you mean? She smirked and grabbed my arm, pulling me close. You don't deserve to know. She pulled on my wrist and flipped me over her, throwing me to the ground. I landed hard on my right elbow, hearing a small crack. I quickly stood up. My arm wasn't fully broken, but it wasn't fine either. My left side was my weaker side, but I had to do something. I balled up my left hand into a fist, then swung it straight towards her face. She caught my fist just short of her cheek, then smirked. What was it I used to tell you? She twisted my left arm behind my back, then she shoved me against the wall, my face bumping the hinge of the door to the exit. I winced, feeling a trickle down my cheek. There was definitely a cut at the top of my cheek. Oh yeah! Kim exclaimed calmly. You need to work on your reflexes on your left side. Being too slow could be your downfall. I opened the hand that was pinned behind my back, then blasted her with my powers, which came out in the form of a black beam. I felt her let go of me, and I turned around quickly to see her stumbling back. You also taught me how to control my powers, how to not let them control me. I smirked. And I learned I'm more powerful at night. The sun is almost set. She clenched her fist and growled. You'll never be the true goddess of darkness. She went to punch me, but I grabbed her fist and threw her to the door of the roof. She ran inside and I followed her. She smashed the glass with the axe used to take down the door during a fire. Smirking, she grabbed the axe and gripped it tightly. Quickly, I aimed my left hand up at the light fixture above, then shot the black beam at it, breaking them. I could use the now pitch-black room to my advantage. Most cat humans lost the ability to see in the dark, but I didn't. My senses were heightened and I could see clearly. I closed my eyes and used the shadows to basically teleport behind Kim. I came up closer behind her, then ripped the axe out of her hand. I punched her hard in the face with my right hand, knocking her to the ground. An excruciating pain shot through my right elbow to the right arm. Trying my best not to scream, I tossed the axe aside. The ping came down on the ground. She was clearly dazed. You might have been the goddess of darkness, but you chose to become evil, I told her. You don't know anything, she mumbled. Maybe. What I do know is that I am, and always will be, the true goddess of darkness. I punched her repeatedly in the face until I knocked her out. That felt good. Chapter 23, Life, Lypye's Perspective. I found Pantherye at the bottom of the stairs, kneeling next to an unconscious Jasmine. The agents were nowhere to be found. I ran up to them and kneeled down quickly on the other side of Jasmine. Jazz! I nudged her a few times on the shoulder, then looked up at Pantherye. What's wrong with her? Pantherye stared at Jasmine, saying nothing, almost like she was in shock. Pantherye! I snapped my fingers in her face. Her focus broke away from Jasmine, and she looked over at me. Lypye, she exclaimed. What's Jasmine's middle name? What? Why? I asked. No time for questions. What is it? She questioned frantically. Rose, I yelled. Pantherye grabbed Jasmine's right elbow with her hand. Pantherye turned her hand and balanced Jasmine's hand on her arm, interlocking Jasmine's hand with Pantherye's elbow. Please work, she whispered. Taking a deep breath, she continued louder with, Jasmine Rose Gross, I give you permission to enter the God world for 1 week. Nothing happened for a second, then a white string formed at Pantherye's right pointer finger. It slowly wrapped around their arms before hitting Jasmine's right pointer finger. The string quickly tightened around their arms before vanishing. Why? I asked. I'll explain after I make sure of something, Pantherye responded. I didn't know you could give mortals permission to enter, she nodded. It's the only way to keep them from vaporizing upon entering. We can only give permission to one person at a time. We can't give another cat-human permission until the first cat-human's time is up. I got it. I went to pick up Jasmine, but a sharp pain went up my right arm, causing me to scream. Pantherye stared at me, wide-eyed. What's wrong? My arm. Kim hurt it badly. I'll be fine. I picked up Jasmine, wincing a little. I took a few deep breaths, trying to ignore the pain. Has she put on weight? As soon as we get to the Godworld Infirmary, I will check out your arm, Pantherye informed me. She threw a key in front of her, opening the portal to the Godworld. Can you carry her that far? I nodded. She and I quickly walked through the portal. On the other side, the portal closed behind us. Then Pantherye caught the key. Quickly, Pantherye led me down to the Godworld Infirmary. When we walked in, 2 identical faces, a male and a female, looked up at us. I believe their names were Yeva and Yevo, Pantherye's assistants in the Godworld. Lypye? Yeva exclaimed, backing up. I'll explain myself later. I need a gurney and a chair, immediately, Pantherye instructed. Yevo dragged out a gurney, and Yeva pulled out a chair. I walked over to and quickly set Jasmine on the gurney. Yevo chuckled.
It's crazy. We just had your younger sister in here.
Why? Pantherye asked. Carl's poison, Yeva responded. Turns out neither her nor Prince Hyena had a big cure on them. She's fine now. She's talking with Queen Hina in the Syara team's room. Why am I the only one ever prepared? She asked, dragging me over to the chair and forcing me to sit down. I need the 2 of you, Yeva and Yevo, to do an ultrasound on that unconscious mortal's stomach. They nodded and started pulling out the equipment. Why? I asked, panicking. To confirm something, she responded, starting to lightly feel around my right arm. I winced as she touched my elbow. She moved in front of me, blocking my entire view of Jasmine. I closed my eyes, trying to endure the pain. What's wrong? It's fractured. She grabbed my elbow lightly with both hands, closing her eyes and took a deep breath. She exhaled slowly and a white glow appeared around her hands. I don't think more than 10 seconds had passed when the glow disappeared and she removed her hands. I bent my elbow, then unbent it, feeling very little pain. My eyes widened as I stared into her amused and green stare. I have the power to heal the sick and mildly wounded. I also have the power to improve or destroy someone's life, she exclaimed. It's a power that can be extremely dangerous if used incorrectly. Princess Pantherye, Yeva called behind us. I think we found what you're looking for. She dashed quickly over to Jasmine, then looked at the screen, blocking my view entirely. I looked over to Jasmine and I gasped. Her stomach. I ran over to Pantherye, panicked. Lypye, Pantherye said slowly, shocked. Did you know that Jasmine's pregnant? I stared at Jasmine, my heart racing, then shook my head slowly. How far along?
We don't do this often.
Yevo spoke up. Pantherye and I looked over at him.
It might not be accurate, but I'd say close to full term.
I clenched my fist tightly, coming to a realization. That's close to when she started acting depressed again. I thought it was because she found out that Raphael was really Hyena. I'm going to kill him! Pantherye grabbed my shoulders. We don't know for sure that he's the father. I crossed my arms. Why did you bring her to the God world? She told me she was pregnant, she mumbled. So you had the same idea, I asked. What makes you say that? Why did you bring her to the God world and not a normal hospital? I questioned. On her behalf, it would make sense why she didn't tell me. She knew I would have killed Hyena. Hyena? Yeva asked, cutting in and walking up to us. Are you saying the baby will be a demigod? We don't know for sure, Pantherye responded, reassured. I grabbed Jazz's phone from her back pocket and stared at it. I asked Nicholas to talk to Jasmine. Maybe she told him. That's a big maybe, Pantherye commented. How do you know he got to Jasmine before King did? I don't. I dialed his number and hit call, but it's worth a shot. I put the phone up to my ear. The phone rang for a while. I didn't think it would pick up. Then I heard a soft,
Hello?
Hey, it's Lypye. I was wondering if you got a chance to talk to Jazz? I asked.
Yeah, I did. She told me quite a bit, but I told her that she needs to tell you herself.
He explained. I took a deep breath. Did she tell you she was pregnant?
Yes.
I cleared my throat, nervous. Did she tell you who the father is?
Yes. But I told her that she needs to...
Nicholas. I cut in. Jasmine is currently unconscious in the Godworld infirmary where Pantherye and I just discovered that she's almost 9 months pregnant. Just answer this. Is Hyena the father? He stayed silent for a while, probably contemplating whether to answer or not.
Yes.
Thanks. That's all I needed to hear. I hung up the phone, gripping it tightly. My anger was boiling inside of me. So? Pantherye asked. I threw Jazz's phone against the wall, smashing the phone. I'm going to fucking kill him! Lypye! Pantherye called as I ran out of the room. I know Jawaria took a huge risk by letting me into the God world. I also knew that Mom wouldn't be happy with Jawaria as she found out about me. In this one moment, though, I was too blinded by rage to care. I slammed the door to the Syara team's discussion room open. Mom gasped. Lypye? How did you get here? I walked briskly past Mom and Jawaria, going straight over to Hyena. I grabbed his arm tightly and pulled him to his feet. I was shaking with anger. I pushed him against the wall. Lypye, wait! Jawaria yelled. Stop it! I ignored her, repeatedly punching him in the face in anger. I felt a tug on my arm. Mom wouldn't be brave enough to try and intervene, so Jawaria. I shouldered her off and punched Hyena again. My arm went back, my elbow accidentally hit something. Jawaria got both of my arms firmly, pulling me away from him. Hyena held his face, his lip bleeding.
What was that for?
You fucking got her killed! I shouted, trying to fight off Jawaria.
Who?
He asked. Jawaria turned to me and around to face her, holding my shoulders. Her upper lip and nose were bleeding, and I only guessed that was what my elbow hit. She stared into my eyes, a little afraid. Lypye, hey, what happened? Who did he get killed? I attempted to shoulder off with me. Let go of me! Not until you calm down, she said firmly. How did Lypye get into the God world? Mom asked. Not now, Mom! Jawaria and I yelled in unison. Jawaria hugged me. Please, just answer me. Who did he get killed? I hugged her back and broke down crying. Jasmine. She's not dead yet, but she might as well be. We stopped hugging each other and looked at Hyena. I wiped my tears. Jawaria spoke up first. What does she mean? He looked back and forth between Jawaria and I, scared and bewildered.
I don't know.
What the fuck do you mean you don't know? I yelled. Jawaria grabbed my arm tightly. She was probably afraid I was going after Hyena again.
I really don't know.
He tried. I stared into Hyena's eyes, realizing he was telling the truth. You really don't know. He shook his head, slowly walking towards me.
What did I do?
He sighed. I sighed. Jasmine's pregnant. His eyes widened.
Why am I just finding out now?
She hid this from everyone, I admitted. Wait a second, I heard Mom say. All of us turned to face her. How did Lypye get into the God world and who is Jasmine? I gave Lypye permission to enter the God world, Jawaria admitted. We can talk about it later. Jasmine's my best friend, I told her. She's the mortal I've been living with. She looked at Hyena. You got Immortal pregnant? I need to get to the bottom of this.
Mom.
Hyena took a deep breath.
She didn't know I was a godman. I got her pregnant.
Mom stayed silent. I decided to break that silence. She was currently unconscious in the Godworld Infirmary. Pantherye gave her permission. Let's all go down to the infirmary, Juwaria suggested. Juwaria, Mom started. Mom, there is currently a mortal in the Godworld Infirmary who's pregnant with a demigod child. There are more important things than correcting me on a single conjunction, Juwaria told her. Let's go. We all walked in silence over to the infirmary. Pantherye was standing in the waiting room in front of the doors to the area Jasmine was in. She looked at the hyena, seeing his bloody lip and bruise forming on his cheek, then smirked. That's about what I expected. He sighed.
How is she?
She gave a light smile. She's awake. Pantherye opened the door and let us all in. Jasmine had changed into a hospital gown and was laying in the hospital bed with a blanket over her legs and feet. Hyena ran over to her.
Jasmine, I'm so sorry. If I had known, I panicked. I should have.
She grabbed his wrist lightly. I'm mad, don't get me wrong, she said weakly. But it's my fault too. I didn't tell anyone that I was pregnant with a demigod child until it was too late. Why didn't you? Mom asked. Jasmine slowly looked over at her. My brother thinks that it's because the baby was influencing my mind. I think it just came down to losing the baby. I didn't want the gods to know because you would have forced me to get rid of it. She brought her gaze down, avoiding all eye contact. I didn't know that my life was in danger. I started tearing up, then stormed out of the room. I didn't want to cry in front of them. It's not fair! My brother's mistake is going to be the cause of my mortal sister's demise. Jasmine, why didn't you listen to me? Why didn't you stay away from him? I sat down in a chair and cried into my hands. Why didn't I notice? Her outfit changed. Her emotions changed. The constant cramps she had. I heard the door open and I looked up to see my mom walking out. Quickly, I wiped my tears as she sat down next to me. You want to talk about it? She asked. I stared at her, surprised, taking deep breaths. Tears began falling again. I can't lose her. She wiped my tears with her hands. You really do care about her? I nodded. She's like a sister to me. She was there for me when I thought everyone had turned their backs on me. She stood up, then grabbed my arm and pulled me to my feet. Lypye. She pulled me into a tight hug. I'm sorry, she whispered. I hugged her back and she began running her fingers through my hair lightly. I'm your mother. I should have been there for you. I was just so scared. I asked, sighing. I get it. She let go of me and stared into my eyes. We looked over when we heard the door slam open. Quickly, get out! Pantherye yelled, pushing Juwaria and Hyena out of the room before slamming the door closed. What's going on? I asked. Jasmine is having contractions, Juwaria explained.
Lypye,
Hyena said nervously.
I need to tell you something.
I have nothing to say to you, I yelled.
Pantherye thinks she can save Jasmine.
He told me. My eyes widened, shocked. How?
Know how Pantherye can heal almost any injury?
He asked. I nodded and he continued.
She thinks that she can use her powers to constantly heal any injury she gets during labor. Yeva and Yeva will worry about the baby.
I noticed my mom's gaze was fixed on the floor, so I shifted over to her. What's on your mind? There's still the issue of the demigod baby, she sighed. And what your father will say. Give him a call, I told her. Ask him to come here, explain what you want, but we can explain the rest when he gets here. Mom nodded and pulled out her phone. I took a deep and shaky breath. I haven't seen my dad since I got banished. I'm scared of what he might say. Sure, Hyena is too.